Hold on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to call on Representative Bernal to open us with a word of prayer.
Good morning, everybody. When you bow your heads. Dear God, thank you for allowing each and every one of us to get here safely, and for those that are not here, that they too will arrive safely. We are here today to do the business of the state of Georgia, and we want to make sure that whatever we do, whatever decisions that we make, will benefit all Georgians. We thank you for your love and for your mercy, and ask for you to continue to guide us as we go along through this session. Amen.
Thank you, Representative. All right. Well, for the first order of business, I want to make a note that we do not have a quorum at this time, so we will not vote on the rules of the committee. Yet, if we get a quorum later on, we'll do that. The second thing I want to do is thank Representative Carpenter for the food that we have in the back. We've got some chicken biscuits back there. So please, all the members, please help themselves. Yes.
Pick those up at Martin's on the way in. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Gotcha. But we appreciate it, Chairman Carpenter, for you bringing those to us. We have a bit of a conflict, obviously, with appropriations meeting this morning, and that's why we're going to have to move forward. At this time, you know, as our program states, we want to highlight the restaurant industry, and we did this a couple of years ago, and Karen Bremer did a great job bringing members of her industry here to share their story with us and talk about the challenges and the rewards and the passion. And at this time, Karen, who is the president and CEO of Georgia Restaurant Association, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chairman Chokas, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here again with you all this morning, and I thank you for getting up early to come and get information from us. Susie from my office passed out some information for y'all. I think my business card is there, Scott Bierman's business card, who is our Director of Government Affairs. There's the very important invite to the Taste of Georgia State Restaurant Day, February 22nd at the Freight Depot. Everybody's invited. Bring your staff and have a taste of Georgia. And we'll also have some of our ProStart High School students this year having sort of a little cooking competition. So we want you to come check out what they're doing and what they're learning in our high schools, in 36 high schools around the state of Georgia. There's also some information about facts about our industry that I'm going to go into a little bit. Our most recent advocacy guide that'll give you a taste of some of the things that we work on as an association. And basically, my association represents the 21,000 restaurants in the state of Georgia. We employ about 500,000 people. We should probably do in excess of about $26 billion in revenue this year. And we are the second largest private sector employer, 11% of the workforce. We are second only to the ag industry, and it's sort of fitting. They grow the food, and we cook it, and we sell it, and we serve it, and we feed people every day here in Georgia. And an interesting statistic about Georgia, 50% of all Georgians, adult Georgians, have worked in a restaurant at some point in their life. I think restaurants bring something to our communities in terms of the place where we break bread together, where we do things together, and also the service that we provide in terms of teaching people soft skills. You learn how to smile at customers, you learn how to come to work on time, you learn lots of those skills that then translate into career paths for many within our industry and out of our industry. I myself was an owner-operator, started as an hourly worker in the restaurant industry almost 50 years ago. Next year will be my 50th anniversary being in the industry. And it certainly has given me a pathway and an opportunity, as it has many, many other people. Something that I'd like you to reference here, I'm going to give you a little bit of what I call Restaurant 101. You see busy restaurants, and everybody thinks that, oh, they're just making money hand over fist, hand over fist. Actually, our industry is has one of the tightest profit margins of most industries. And if you look, there's a diagram here of a dollar bill. And these, the percentages actually have changed quite a bit, and you'll be hearing from some of our restaurateurs about that, about how inflation has taken its toll, not just on y'all as consumers and other businesses, but it's certainly taken a deep toll on our industry, particularly coming out of the pandemic crisis, which shut down 58% of all restaurants in March of 2020. Fortunately, most restaurants are back. In fact, we've increased the number of restaurants in Georgia, which is a testament to our industry. However, the staffing shortages are still there. Currently in the United States, we are short over 500,000 workers in our industry, and here in Georgia, we could probably employ another 50,000 people in our industry. So normally, our profit margin is 4 to 6%. Currently, most people are running 1 to 2% right now, and that is because of all the inflationary pressures that we have encountered in food. Just talk to anybody about an egg, and you know what I'm talking about. Talk about fryer oil, and then talk about the labor pressures that everybody is experiencing, and the cost of benefits. I haven't spoken to anybody who hasn't had a significant increase in their insurance premiums, health insurance, workman's comp, as well as general liability. And some really amazing things about our industry, and that I'm very proud of here in Georgia. 55% of all our restaurants in Georgia are minority owned. We have the highest percentage of black-owned restaurants in the United States. It exceeds 32%, Asian ownership 19%, and Hispanic, I believe, is either 8 or 9 this year. We also have a very significant number of women-owned businesses, restaurants here in Georgia. And, people think a lot about the restaurant industry where they think we're just large chains. Well, it's important to remember a lot of those large chains are franchisors, and the franchisees are the individual owners and operators. So it is an industry of small businesses. And at this time, I would like to invite my restaurateurs to come up and speak today. And Joseph Shaw, I'd like him to step up. Joseph is on my board of directors. He's on my executive committee. He's the president and CEO of H Restaurant Group, which is the Flying Biscuit Cafe, Candler Park in Midtown, Flip Burger Boutique, West Cobb Diner, South Cobb Diner, Paisano's Pizzeria, and Italian Kitchen. And he is definitely someone that supports his community and gives back, and has 2 adorable children.
Thank you.
I'll stay here with you if you
Sure,
need me.
thank you. Hi, good morning. Thank you, Chairman Chokas, for having us here, the Georgia Restaurant Association here. Glad to be here, and good to see Representative Martinez and Representative Park. Glad to see everybody here. My name is Joseph Shaw, and I am the President and CEO of H Restaurant Group. Thank you, Karen, for the introduction. So we founded the company back in 2010. So we have Flying Biscuit Cafe, which is a franchise, and then all our other locations, other restaurants are non-franchised. But recently, I'm glad to see that we've recovered since the pandemic, thankfully, and very grateful that we've recovered. Still seeing some slight labor challenges, but they're better than what it was 8-9 months ago. So things are starting to improve. Still very competitive out there with the labor market in terms of compensation. Everybody's out there trying to get the same people from the same workforce. So it's but fortunately we've been able to retain a lot of our team members, and our team members have been with us for during this whole entire time. So, but so just glad to be here and be able to share our thoughts on what some of the challenges, just like Karen said earlier, the supply chain issue, we're still having some of that. A lot of our products that we're getting, just shipping alone is more than the product itself. So that's one of the challenges, but hopefully we can see the price go down and hopefully back to the pre-pandemic times. So thank you.
Okay, we've got a few minutes for questions, and I'd like to open it up to any of the members. If y'all have a question. Number 16, cool.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I have a question more for Karen, if that's okay. So I've seen in a few restaurants robot servers. I was wondering if you could speak to kind of the impact that automation and advancements in robotics could have, especially in terms of trying to address some of the labor shortages.
Certainly, and I think I've spoken to some of y'all about this before, but the embracement of technology was nothing short of a miracle the first 6 months of, or the first 6 months after March 20th in 2020. And people realized quickly that they needed to have a website. They needed to have social media. They needed to be able to order through their computers and really take a strong look at the industry and their restaurant as to what they could automate. And it's been very interesting to see the adoption of robotics. I know I have a neighborhood restaurant that I go to that brings your food to you with the robot. And I think there are more people embracing that, as well as there's a lot more automation going on in the kitchen too, in terms of fryers that you can program to drop the French fries and start cooking them and then remove them, timing on ovens, things like that, as well as restaurateurs have had to look at, well, can I order my onions already sliced for me instead of having to find another person there to slice my onions? So definitely it's going to continue, and that's going to be, I think, going to be one of the hallmarks of 23 is really understanding now all this technology, how you're going to apply it into your restaurant.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Would some of these advances in tech, particularly some of the initial costs, serve as barriers to entry of the market for mom and pop businesses?
Yes, and there are some very specific tax programs right now that. In fact, I believe there's a bill that's going to be dropped that could assist small businesses with purchasing technology and being able to utilize it in the restaurants, being able to spread out the payments over 30 years and amortize it differently. Most commercial loans, for those that aren't familiar, are usually no more than 10 years. It's not like you're buying a house and having a 30-year mortgage. So there's some commercial paper that's going to be out there that will also help upgrade the HVAC systems and those systems within our restaurants.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have one more speaker, too. Yes. And
Well, we've got one more, we've got plenty of time.
Okay.
Look, we got, the board's lit up, so if it's okay. Number 24, it's number 24.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, everyone. I'm Solomon Adesanya. I'm a restaurant owner as well, so I can relate to, well, thanks for your presentation. I can relate to most of the point you and Joseph laid out. In addition to the tax programs, what ways are you all looking at? What type of support are you all looking for from the legislature?
As I said 2 years ago when I was here, I don't think that this is the time to put burdensome mandates on our small businesses, restaurants in particular. People are very, very focused right now on hiring individuals, training individuals, and getting them into the workforce. There is also support that we've been able to get on a county level for our high school training programs. We represent a program called ProStart, which is a 2-year high school program that teaches young people not to wait tables or cook, even though that's part of the curriculum. It teaches them about all the options and all the different pathways within the industry. Of the 500,000 workers here in Georgia, roughly 100,000 of those workers are the support people. Those are the real estate site selection people, the purchasing people, the accounting people, the payroll people. The actual managers and operators in the restaurants is more to the tune of about 400,000 right now. So we want people to understand that there is a pathway, there is a career pathway. Certainly, Checker at 15 in S&S Cafeteria, now I run a statewide organization, was president of a small restaurant chain, and was a fine dining restaurant owner. So there are definitely pathways, and we want to ensure our young people know that it is a pathway for them going forward.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we've got, the board is lit up, but in order to let all the presenters speak, and that way we can ask questions to each of those. Since it looks like we're going to have some time, I'm going to, y'all push the button again. But let's go ahead and have our second presenter. So Karen, if you would.
Sure. I'd like to welcome Cindy LeBlanc. She is, I guess your title now is Chairman and CEO? Okay. Cindy and her husband, Alan LeBlanc, own Max Loggers, White Oak Kitchen, and Bold Monk over on the west side. And they were actually pioneers in bringing one of the first brew pubs to the state of Georgia. And they've been strong supporters of downtown. Her husband, Alan, and I were actually two of the founders of the Georgia Restaurant Association. We're celebrating the 20th anniversary this year of the Georgia Restaurant Association. And we started the organization as restaurateurs wanting an independent voice for our restaurants here in the state of Georgia. Without further ado, I'm going to invite Cindy to speak to y'all. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Chairman Chiokas, and all of you committee members for allowing us to speak today. I'm thrilled to be here, and I want to just point out that I'm thrilled with your hospitality this morning and welcoming us and making us feel so comfortable in this setting. Again, my name is Cindy LeBlanc, and I am the owner and founder of Brewed to Serve Restaurant Group, along with my partners and family members, Alan LeBlanc, my husband, John Roberts, my nephew. We own and operate 3 large-scale restaurants and breweries in Atlanta. Max Loggers, Wood-Fired Grill and Brewery, is located downtown across from Truist Plaza and is about to celebrate our 25th anniversary in March of this year. Actually, as Karen pointed out, actually Max Loggers is now the oldest brew pub in Georgia that is still operating. So we've been at this for quite a while. White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails is also located downtown, and it's across from the Hyatt Regency. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary at White Oak. And Bold Monk Brewing Company is our biggest venture to date. We invested about $6 million, designed and developed a state-of-the-art brewery, a beautiful restaurant, beer garden, and bookstore. And so if you haven't been over there, I would love for you to come check it out sometime. Bold Monk is located on the Upper West Side and opened in December of 2019, 4 months before the pandemic struck. We were running with about 175 employees between the 3 locations, and when we closed down, we kept a number of those employees as long as we could based on all of the government support we had, and have managed now to get back up to about 145 team members within all 3 locations. We're still short on the staffing side and doing our best to make things happen. We are in-town business owners and have been involved in the community for quite a long time. I'm on the board of the Gateway Center, Atlanta's homeless resource center. And White Oak actually started a fundraising gala for the Gateway. And we've been doing that for about 10 years. 2 of those were virtual. But again, we were able to have the fundraiser in September of this year. The mayor attended and raised $480,000 this year. We've raised millions for the Gateway Center, which is an extremely important organization for the city of Atlanta and for Georgia. So we're very happy that we've been able to work with the community to give back. And Max Loggers created the Drink Beer Do Good program back in 2003 to benefit local charities, including Gateway, the Atlanta Union Mission, Project Open Hand, and many places like that. I think, you find in the hospitality industry, and specifically the restaurant industry, that many of us do what we can to help others in the community. It's always, something happens and the restaurateurs jump in, and not that we have big margins and lots of money, but, we just have that in us as part of our community-based spirit. So it's something that once you get into the hospitality business, it's hard to find a way out. And frankly, it's another benefit of our chosen profession. John Roberts, our partner, my nephew, he got us into this many years ago. He's the brewmaster for Max Loggers and Bold Monk. And he basically, has trained numerous brewers here in town, and they are now running other breweries, in Georgia, in Atlanta. They either worked at Max Loggers or started interning there. And JR's been to the State House numerous times with the Brewers Guild and the GRA to make sure that we've continued the legislative process to open Georgia more to welcoming breweries here. We've been able to, through your help, obviously, been able to start selling beer in different locations and on premise, which has made a big difference. And I think it's created a very vibrant industry for the state of Georgia, just with between brew pubs and breweries here in the state. So we've come a long way since we opened Max Loggers in 1998. And brewed to serve as our livelihood, and we've all tried to do our best to improve our community day by day. I am pleased to report that after closing our restaurants during the pandemic, they're all back up and running, with the exception of one small one that was at Krog Street Market, and we decided to let that go for the moment. We just have too many things to do and not enough people to help do them. So it's been no small feat, and our recovery was due in large part to the progressive approach of our governor and our state officials. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, as well as the federal government in assisting small and medium-sized businesses stay alive. I believe that reopening as soon as we did in Georgia was the best thing for the state. Certainly it was for our business. I've been traveling, out west and even as far as Hawaii. And many of those areas stayed closed for much longer, and they're still closed. It's been very difficult for people to come back to their livelihood and continue their business after having to shut down for such an extended period of time. We took advantage of programs offered, such as the PPP and the ERC, and we've managed, with the help of those funds, to be able to operate currently at a loss, but we've been able to open and start operating and use the funds that we've received to fund those losses. We do look forward to better times ahead, as continuing to operate at a loss is obviously not sustainable, but we're navigating through the various problems and concerns as we try and figure out how to best position our business for growth. And I appreciate you taking the time to hear our concerns today. I would say that really, first of all, I'm thankful that we're back open. I'm thankful that I have some employees that have been with us for over 15 years. I don't even know how long. And I'm thankful that, we can continue to support the community in the downtown and the west side with our restaurants. But there are some things that we do need to work on. Whether you can help or not, I'd like to at least let you know. First, attracting people back into the workforce. That is one main concern. And I'm sure you know all of these, but bringing them back into the hospitality industry, bringing them back to their offices, particularly downtown, just bringing them back into the economy. It's really, I guess, a hard nut to crack. But employers offer remote work in order to attract and keep talent now. So I don't know, I know things are changing. Remote work means more office vacancies and a shrinking economy in an office-driven neighborhood. So, and for the hospitality industry, we all know remote work is not going to happen. So this is one primary issue. It's a big issue all the way around, but it does have impact, in many industries. Second, obviously, are the inflationary concerns we have regarding labor costs, food and raw material costs. And something that's probably driving a lot of it is the fuel and energy costs that have continue to rise quickly. We as restaurateurs cannot pass along the full increases we're seeing. I don't feel that's possible. So, you know, we take a hit on both sides of the equation. We're paying more. We're paying fuel charges on every delivery we get, which we get maybe 3-4 deliveries a day, 4 days a week. The revenue side is increasing. We can increase the revenue side slightly, but, you know, the costs have increased dramatically. And third, which is a concern that unfortunately I felt last week when, of course, on the news we had the issue downtown with the fire and the riot that was quickly controlled, I understand, which I'm thankful for, but the general lawlessness and the fear, basically, that's a big problem in our city, state, and country. The theft, vehicle damage, riots. We now actually at Bull Monk pay about $40,000 a year since reopening, well, since about mid-2021, in order to pay 2 off-duty police officers just 2 nights a week to patrol our parking lots because of the theft to all the cars. And I mean, it was cars stolen, you know, windows broken, smashed. And this has been going on. I'm sure you're aware of it, but I mean, the only thing we could do, and that's only 2 nights a week, so that's a big hit. But we feel that it has helped somewhat, but we have 2 parking lots, so, you know, then we ended up getting 2 police officers because they couldn't watch everything. And last week's riot occurring downtown at Peachtree International terrified our staff and our guests. And so much so that our manager on duty that evening actually tendered his resignation the next day. We worked so hard to get these people. And, you know, I mean, you do what you got to do. And they did not come down to our facility, but, you know, it was a scary thing. I mean, we're not used to that as Americans living in this country. So I am very appreciative for the quick action of the police, the mayor, his letter, his strong response, I commend. And also the governor's use of the National Guard, I guess the following week, to ward off any potential problems, which I believe made that, you know, a peaceful situation. But frankly, this is a primary concern for me as a CEO of 3 multi-million-dollar properties in the capital of this great state. It makes it difficult to attract and maintain talent, and it also becomes problematic in attracting visitors and locals to our facilities. You know, if they're worried their car's going to get broken into, I wouldn't go to dinner. You know, I wouldn't think about doing that. We have great infrastructure here in Atlanta and all of Georgia. We have the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau working hard to bring conventions back to the city. They've done a great job. We actually opened White Oak earlier than planned, but the ACVB needed some place to take planners so that they could say, yes, we're open. So we were happy to do that. I mean, it worked out. It was so wonderful to reopen and have people in our building again, even with quiet lunches and quiet dinners. It was just great to be back, you know, in the downtown area. Things have moved along for us, and we continue to do what we do. But I would say the industry is in a fragile state. Reminded of that with the recent incidents. And it gave me pause as a downtown business owner. While the leadership's immediate response made a difference, I believe that it's going to be a long battle. And we do need the stamina and the strength to get there. And I just want to say thanks again for listening. And we are happy that we're all back in business. And it's just something I want you to be aware of as we proceed. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. LeBlanc. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and ask Casey to come up here and say a few words, and then I'm going to open the floor. Ms. LeBlanc, you did a great job of talking about the issues that the industry faces, and we appreciate it. I'm sure, I mean, the board is lit up So we'll probably stay a little extra after the meeting if you would like to answer questions. But now one of our own, Chairman Carpenter, who graciously brought us some breakfast. Thank you very much for that. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to commend her on 3 beautiful restaurants. I've eaten at all 3 restaurants, and I'm a big fan of your work. You establish beautiful environments to enjoy food, which is, by the way, my biggest hobby. Besides working in restaurants, we don't, as a restaurateur, you don't have a lot of hobbies, and so eating out is usually our hobby, and so we love to go to our friendly competitors and enjoy what they do and see them at work. So I've been in the restaurant business my whole life. Obviously, as a kid working, my mom had a little sandwich shop, and then working for a few chains at 15 years old up through college, and then went back home to help my mom. And so that's how I got in the business at 21 years old. I was finishing up at Georgia and driving back and running her restaurant. And so I didn't had a great numbers background, studied finance at Georgia, but I didn't have any culinary background other than what I'd learned through various spots. But it just fit my personality. It's a real high speed, lots of people, friendly environment, and so it's just in my blood. And like she said, restaurant owning is it's a way of life. It's in your blood. It runs deep, and you can't get it out of you. Sometimes you wish you could, but you can't. I think I will reiterate what you hear today is inflationary pressures, labor pressures, all these things are causing tremendous strain on our industry. I think that the food cost situation is coming down and stabilizing. I've noticed over the last 4 weeks we've seen stable food cost for the first time really in the last 18 months. The issue now is which item is going to be out of whack. So you hear now it's eggs. Back in December, it was lettuce and produce because of the droughts in California. So I think we will continue to see that in the industry. It won't be a full-out onslaught of price increase, but it'll be specific items. And as a manager of finances, it becomes extremely difficult to match your pricing with your cost. And so it's just something as an industry we have to eat till we can figure out until it stabilizes in that particular area. So we'll that being said, we have passed along as much as possible to our customers, but we are seeing now in my particular business, I am seeing a pullback in revenue based upon price increases. Okay, so if I went up 10% versus my prices last year, my growth in revenue is less than 10%. That tells me that I'm feeding less people. Yes, my revenue is up, but it's up over a price increase and not up over a volume increase. And I think that's what you're seeing as interest rates are rising. People are losing money out of their pocket. We instituted the gas tax back on, obviously in the state of Georgia. Rent's up, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody in the room's costs are up. And so your expendable income is down. At that point, you're going to start making decisions about eating a turkey sandwich at the house for lunch versus coming out to my restaurant and eating. So I think we'll see that. I think 2023, in not just the restaurant industry, but the economy as a whole, you're going to see revenue issues start to peak in. Thank goodness we're seeing stabilization of cost, but that will be an issue in 23. Also, I think you will see that other costs will begin to come back down. You'll start seeing energy costs come back down. Natural gas has plummeted, so you'll see your power bills at home. You can tell your constituents your power bills are going to go down because the cost of natural gas has come down tremendously thanks to a cooler winter in Europe. So you will see that. That helps restaurants, obviously, because we have high energy costs. Insurance is not going down, so that'll never go away. Rents are not going down, so that's not going away. So we're still got below the line expenses that are going to rise overall. So like you heard Miss Karen say, it's a 4 to 6% industry. As you start eating at that 4 to 6%, it becomes unsustainable, especially as interest rates rise. So you will see restaurants close, unfortunately, as we move through this process. A lot were still hanging on to the PPP money that was keeping them in business. Sad to say, but as restaurants close, it helps the labor pool for other restaurants that do survive. So that should help as we get to the second half of 23. But overall, man, it's a challenging industry. And the beauty of it is it's a small business industry, a lot of different players in the industry, and we are all nimble and quick and make decisions on the fly. You know, you deal with big companies and they can't make the decisions small businesses can make and adapt into the environment. That's the beauty of small businesses. It sets the footprint. It's almost like the United States with the state models making decisions in every state, and you can see what works the best. That's what small business does for big business. We show big business trends before they can make decisions on them. So without small businesses, big businesses become big bureaucratic organizations that can't make decisions. They only see what the small niche businesses do, and that's where the creative model is in our economy, is the small business that illustrates this is where trends are going, and this is what the big business needs to do. So I think we're pioneers. I think we're gamblers by trade. We really see things through a different lens and seeing not what is it today, what's the restaurant industry moving forward. And I think us independents create that, and it's fun to do and sometimes very challenging at 2:30 in the morning when you're cooking biscuits for Mr. Chokas. So I won't eat up any more of your time, but obviously I'm passionate about what I do. Love to talk to you offline anytime. So,
Chairman Carpenter, thank you very much. We appreciate not only your passion in your industry, but your passion for your constituents when you're working up here. But at this time, if our speakers can stay a few minutes, we've got several more questions. So number 3.
Chairman, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've always been a small business owner all my life, so I get it. And I want to say that Bold Monk is in my district of Ellsworth, and having industrial constituents as well as residential, I have a lot of restaurant tours, first-generation restaurant tours, non-franchise restaurant tours in my district, and I hear consistently the issue of retention of labor force, the loss of people that have been with them for a very long time, that have become like family members. And so my question revolves around bringing workforce back to the industry. And with the success Ms. Karen mentioned about the high school to industry pipelines, showing students the business opportunities in the industry, not that there's more than the service component. My question is, and I'm just unaware, do you think that there are enough similar programs and opportunities for adult members of the labor force who may be at a point of pivot in their life due to making it through the pandemic themselves? That's question number 1. And then 2, the pivot that small business owners are able to make. So many of my restaurant owners had to pivot to the delivery model, which wasn't necessarily fiscally beneficial because of the splits of the third-party contract. So the technology was great because you could just, and hey, I'm one of their frequent flyers. I'll be honest. But it wasn't beneficial to the business owner because the revenue split at the end of the day with an Uber or a DoorDash was almost detrimental to them keeping their doors open, but they had no choice when people weren't coming in. So my second question is just the benefit and the detriment of new technology in the industry that takes away the human labor force, but also takes away some of your profit margins when you have to implement it as your main source of revenue.
I think I'll touch on delivery first. There's actually a piece of legislation in the Senate that was a result of a study committee that Elena Parent put together last year to study third-party deliveries. And an aspect of third-party deliveries, obviously, is the financial aspect, but the bigger issue to me is food safety. You have people that their cars aren't inspected. They don't have to go through the training. Every restaurant in the state of Georgia has to have a certified manager. That's not just a piece of paper. It's an 8-hour course, a very difficult exam, and they have to practice these specific food handling procedures within their businesses. So the fee structure, I think, is a conversation for other people. It is a free market economy, and people are going to pay what they're going to pay to get something there. If you're a popular restaurant, you have a little bit of a leverage with some of those companies, but they are still the wild, wild west. I mean, we have companies, they call themselves technology companies, but actually they're a food service company that doesn't have any rules. And there are other emerging business practices like that. And as to getting adults back into our industry, that's interesting because I'm working on a project called Restaurant Ready right now, where we're going to be partnering with different community organizations to provide more training and a pathway to get people back into the workforce. It's kind of in its infancy right now. I just recently, during COVID, took on the ProStart program, which is the 2-year high school program. And as a result, I've actually developed some high school programs, boot camps, to teach young people how to get a part-time job in a restaurant. And we do everything from food safety to soft skills to financial literacy to wraparound services to getting their identification so that when they do go to apply for a job, they have the necessary forms to be able to fill out an I-9 and to pass the federal identity program. And so that is something we're going to continue to grow and work into. I hope that answers.
Thank you. Number 18.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 2 questions too. One, could you explain what the definition of small business, because a lot of times we use that term, and I want to be very, very clear about what that definition is. And then second, is there a way we can get a list of the members that are in our district? It's always helpful to stop by and talk to them on the ground in our districts.
I can actually generate a list for you if you send me an email. It won't be a list of members. It'll be a list of restaurants. That I can put together for you.
Know which ones are members, or is that part of?
It's part of the confidentiality. Oh, okay. We have a very, very. It's like we don't sell emails. We don't give out emails. We're very, very tight with all of that. And if I remember correctly, in Georgia, from being a small business person, I believe it's under 500.
300.
300. Okay, it used to be 500. So under 300 employees is a small business.
Yeah. Thank you. My wife is the dean of the College of Business at Georgia Southwestern State University, so I was tutored in the definition. So anyway, I think we've got number 24. Number 24. Cool.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Representative Carpenter. Being in the restaurant industry has to be a hobby, right? A part of you, and I concur to that because I, like you, enjoy eating as well, and I guess that makes sense that I got into that industry. So my question is for Cindy LeBlanc. I love going to Bodemont, the one in Ellsworth as well. I like the garlic mussels with the cold beer. In fact, I will be there on Saturday. So, and I dealt with so much labor shortages as well between 2020 and 2021. I had to roll up my sleeves to do the work because I have 19 employees across my 2 locations, and I lost half of them. I had to juggle back and forth between my 2 locations, which was challenging. What I would like to ask is, the stores or the restaurants that you all have experiencing the most challenges, are you all tip-based, or do you have a flat hourly salary for them, or do you lose more of the tip-based? That's the first question.
Well, for the service staff, you're asking?
Well, your employees overall.
Yes, absolutely. Our employees are all tip-based that work on the front of the house. So that's great for them. We actually pay a larger or a higher hourly rate just because with COVID and everything, the tips were not, what they needed to be. So, and now to try and get that back to where we used to be is not probably going to be an option. But we do pay a higher hourly, and they do receive their tips. So that's pretty much the way that operates. We do also tip any service staff that are, whether they're server assistants, whether they're the hosts at the front door, because that's one of the most important positions that we have. In the past, we did not tip that position, but we have started having them share in the tips. And one interesting fact that I was in Boston visiting my new grandchild last week, and we went to a restaurant, and we saw on our bill 3% kitchen, I don't know what it said, but anyway, I asked them about it, and she said, yeah, that's for the kitchen, and they get tipped out based on that. I said, that is a fabulous idea. I mean, it's 3%, it's not 10%, but it is just a nice thing. And so look on your next bill, maybe at Bold Monk, you might see an extra 3%, sorry, but, and again, that's going to be taxed at the state level too, as you know, since it's a gratuity that would be required to be paid. So to answer, I hope I answered your question.
And your
They
back
are
of staff, your back of house staff, are they hourly or tip, the back of house, not the front of
They're
house?
either salary or hourly.
Okay. And I recall that you mentioned riot affecting or scaring some of your staff. Can you tell us which location was affected by any protest?
That was White Oak. White Oak. I didn't hear from Max Loggers. They were another block away, but White Oak, which, is a secure location. We have, even in the building, there's security. But it was just scary, and I felt terrible that, this happened. I said, look, just let everybody, close the doors, lock the doors. If people want to leave, let them leave, and then close down as soon as you can. It was, I guess, 2 blocks away or so, but a lot of stuff was going on apparently on Peachtree. We did have a call from Max Loggers as well, saying there were a lot of people walking down the street, and we told them to do what they needed to do to secure themselves and the guests and the building as well. So.
And the staff quit because of that?
Well, one manager,
The manager.
he had other reasons, but I mean, I think it's interesting that he tendered a resignation the next morning. And I said, it's just, he did not say this is specifically why, but it certainly didn't help. It was stress related. So I think, it's just, we can't have that as a nation. We can't have that kind of thing. I mean, it was funny writing this last night when I realized I was going to be able to speak with you all. You have to go back and think about all the things you forgot. How many things have we forgotten? Because you don't want to remember all the bad things, But I can remember paying for plywood for a guy to put stuff on the windows because of the whatever, potential thing was happening in Atlanta during this crazy period we've all been through.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've got one last question, and I've got to give it to my vice chairman, and then the rest of the questions can be, once we've adjourned, because we've got other responsibilities as well. So, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you so much, Chairman. This is for either one of you all, Mr. Carpenter, Mr. Blanco, or Karen. I was one of your 8% Hispanics restaurants back in the day. I had a restaurant for 6 years in Loganville, and I sold it. And I could tell you, my question to you is, we always talk about food inflation. Can you tell me, and one of the reasons why I closed is because insurance went up, liability insurance, workers' comp, permits, all that stuff that people don't talk about. Can you tell me the percentage, some of the percentages that go up on those type of costs that people don't normally talk about? That's one question real quick. And the other question would be, can you tell me some of the effects of food trucks with the industry? Thank you.
Okay. To the first question, this year, according to the data, the research that I look at that the National Restaurant Association accumulates, this year going to 2023, benefit costs went up 5%, but that was on top of 20% last year in benefit costs that went up. Food inflation last year was about 18%. This year it's running 11.8%. And yeah. And so those are the pressures. And then, I'm sorry, what was the third question? Food trucks. Yeah. But food trucks are really interesting because when I stepped into this role 13 years ago, the only way you could have a food truck in the state of Georgia was to apply for a specific variance to allow that to allow that food truck. And as someone entering an organization that was going to represent the industry that I grew up in, I wanted to make sure we were staying ahead of technologies, of trends in our industry. As an independent restaurateur, I was on the cutting edge there. So I found out that the Food and Drug Administration food code that we operate under had created rules for food trucks. So I went to the Department of Public Health and said, hey, can we adopt these rules? How does this work? And so went to Dr. Fitzgerald. She put me with the team and said, this is how we adopt food code items. So my association is very, very involved in all of that because the food trucks, it's a less costly way for people to enter into the industry. And then it is also utilized by people that already have existing restaurants to do marketing, to get out into different communities and see if their food or their concept actually works in different areas.
I want to thank all the presenters for coming here and sharing that with us. On another note, next week at our meeting we'll have the automobile dealers. And then with that being said, we're adjourned. Thank you.